So what happened to the land in Maui after the wildfires? How much of that land was sold off to investors on the mainland? What about the directed energy weapons used to cause the fires or start the fires? What is the official line from the government, and why we should all just look the other way? Why are so many households still not rebuilt and living in temporary housing? And how many people have now died as a result of this entire process? Michelle Melendez is the author of Great Maui Land Grab: What Caused the Maui Fire, and Is Your Home Next? And there are dozens upon dozens of oddities, and is an award finalist for this book. Thank you, Michelle, for joining us here on Redacted. Great to have you here. And earlier morning out there in Maui, but thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it. Oh, you are muted. That's all right.
There we go. Mahalo for having me, and so much mahalo for keeping this story alive, because it is people like you that will allow the truth to be told. And what's actually happened after the fire is horrendous, and most people don't even know what's actually been going on over there. So I actually live on the big island of Hawaii. Maui is a sister island to us, where it's about 60 miles away. And when that happened, I started looking deeper and interviewing firefighters. I interviewed a 50-year arborist, and also went over there and talked to the people, and also talked to Hawaii State Representative Ellie Cochran, who grew up in Lahaina, was born, raised, and also survived the fire. And she's the one that actually contacted the Maui fire chief and asked him the day of the fire, when the fire was happening. She called the Maui fire chief, who was off island, and asked him, should I evacuate? And he said, why? He said, why? She said, there's a fire in Lahaina. So the Maui fire chief was not even told of the fire that was happening. He called her a couple minutes later and said, yes, evacuate. So that's how, thank God, she survived the fire.
Maybe you can run us through some of the main inconsistencies of the government's story, and how, what time of day it started, who knew and when, and what finger pointing. Can you just give us a Cliff's Notes to bring us up so that we can start to pull apart the holes that we have?
Yeah, so the first fire started at 6 a.m. in the morning, and supposedly it was put out all the way, which I think it was. I think it really was put out all the way. And then the rekindling started at 3 p.m. And then 6 p.m. at night, the fire's going. It's fully blown going. Lahaina's burning down. The Maui mayor goes on live television and tells people that it's fine. Lahaina's, the fire's it's under control, when everything was chaos. And so he actually goes on live television and says that Lahaina is fine, when Lahaina is absolutely burning down. That was at 6 p.m. I can go into the wind. I mean, I don't know where you guys want to start, but there's a lot to share.
Yeah, I mean, I want to unpack everything. So that's why you're on today, because I don't want to leave any stone unturned with this story. And so many people have written us, over the months, over the past years, what about Maui? What about it? Why has everyone forgotten about this story? And I said, we haven't, and that's why we wanted to have you on. So I don't want to leave any stone unturned. So to Natalie's point, 6:30 in the morning. Their official story is it was electrical wires. Maybe we can just start there and then kind of unpack the day.
Yeah, they said that. And, but here's the thing, even the roadblocks where the police chief, the police chief had blocked everybody in, and he said he had blocked everybody in because there were, telephone poles down. There's actually videos and pictures that the telephone poles were standing straight up. And one of my friends who survived the fire, she got out and she actually had to tell her daughter, go around the policeman, go around the police blockade. She was one of the last people to get out in this one area. And I said, were there any telephone poles down? She said, no. She said there was no telephone poles down. And she said that people just weren't going around the police blockades when they should have been, and that would have saved them.
Well, we also know that Maui Emergency Management Agency did not sound alarms. And
that's right.
So when people were trying to figure out if they should evacuate or not, a lot of them were too late and literally walked into the ocean to save themselves from fires. And then where was the Coast Guard? There was no one taking people out of. So can we talk about the emergency response that wasn't?
Yes, we have the best warning system that is tested every single Sunday. First Sunday of the month is tested. We hear it every single month, and this amazing warning system was not turned on. The reason that the director of the Maui Emergency Management Center, who beat out 40 other applicants, he had zero emergency management experience, and he said the reason he didn't turn on the warning was because he was worried people would run into the fire, because that is beyond ridiculous.
What?
That is his actual statement on the news. His official statement was he did not turn on the emergency warning system because he was worried people would run into the fire, because the warning system is supposed to be for tsunamis. But actually on their own website, it says for emergencies. It's for emergencies. That's how it's supposed to be for even it even says wildfires on the website.
Does he think people are stupid? I mean, if I see a fire, we're not just going to run into the fire. I mean, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Exactly. He was never reprimanded. Nobody was fired. Nobody had any accountability for what happened. The emergency management sign-in sheet, and I saw you guys actually did a video on this, there was so many people that their names were blacked out. There were people that signed in but didn't sign back out again. The police chief decided, I'm not going to go to the emergency management center. I'm going to create my own emergency management center here at the police station. He didn't want to leave, or I don't know what his deal was. He sent his assistant to go to the emergency management center when he was supposed to be the one that was there. So many things. The water was shut off because of one taro farmer. There was one. Taro is like potato. One farmer that had the water going toward his farm, and the water was turned off. They said that they needed his permission to get the water reverted back to Lahaina. And by the time they had that permission, it was too late. The town was gone. And yes, people were going into the water. There have been locals. They will not come on to and say this officially, but I do have a friend from Molokai. So it goes Maui, Molokai, and then Lanai is right in front of Lahaina. Right in front of Lahaina is Lanai. So if anything goes in Lahaina in the water, it usually hits Lanai before it goes out to the ocean. And he told me that there were bodies that were washing up on Lanai, and that people were that there were bodies that were washing up. He would not say that officially on record on the video with me, but he did tell me privately.
Oh, now talk about the electricity. So power lines, that's what we heard, right? The power lines, that's what sparked this initial blaze at 6:34 in the morning. Are there any inconsistencies with that? And I guess maybe this is where we get the question of directed energy weapons at that level.
Yeah, absolutely. So they did show a telephone pole that had been burned and damaged. But the thing with this fire that you have to understand is palm trees stayed up. Palm fronds stayed fine, stayed fully intact. Trees didn't burn. In fact, if you want to go to, there's a video or a picture that I have of a vehicle, and the engine block is melted out. We've seen these vehicles all over the place. And yes, that's the one. This was taken from Maui Community Investigates. And look at that. This is impossible. How in the world does a home turn to white ash, no refrigerator, no stove, no toilet? The glass is melted out. Glass melts about 2,400 degrees. A regular wildfire burns about 1,200 degrees. Does not melt out an engine block, does not melt the aluminum off of wheels like that. And yet the palm trees are still standing up. That's absolutely impossible. And so I asked the 50-year arborist, Robert Bram. I actually did a video with him, and was one of the first videos I did on the fire. And I said, how do trees not burn? I said, this is a fire. It's heat. How does it not burn a tree? And he said, Michelle, the chemistry of the fire doesn't recognize the organic material. The chemistry, it was a different chemistry, a chemical fire, and how do microwave frequencies cook your food. They cook the water. They heat up the water inside your chicken breast, but the chicken breast doesn't burn up, doesn't turn into ash, but it does heat up the water. This is why he said trees that didn't burn should have, and the trees that should have burned didn't. He said the trees with the most water should not have burned, but they were the ones that did burn because the water was burning. This is why you have pictures of trees burning from the inside out. I mean, and this is also still happening. Look at Israel with all the trees that were burning from the inside from there. There's pictures of the trees burning that I sent you guys. One from Sonoma County. This was a Tubbs fire. This is from the Tubbs fire in California, 2017. And this is burning from the inside out. The only way, this is Maui. This was a thumbnail on our CR Channel 3 news for months, and now it's gone. That's another reason I wrote the book, Great Maui Land Grab, was because I knew if I didn't document these and take them off the internet, these pictures would be gone. And they're absolutely gone. So greatmauilandgrabbook.com is that website. There's also a picture from the LA fire, that has, it's what is this? Like, what in the world? I don't even have any words right now, because all of a sudden there's just, the fire just goes right in the middle of the tree. Somebody from LA sent me this picture. And that's when I was like, I have to do this. The book I have is the 4th edition, because it includes 21 LA fire oddities, because that's the exact same attack. We have been attacked. The American people have been attacked. And they're not talking about it, because we don't really know who is really pushing the button. But they have this technology. There was a Direct Energy Weapons Acquisition Act of 2016. You guys, I sent you the picture of that. This was the Defense Department had spent, since the 1960s, the Defense Department has spent over $6 billion on the Direct Energy Weapons program. And then in 2016, this was a bill passed through Congress, and Congress took over the Direct Energy Weapons program, and people's tax dollars have helped fund it and brought the Direct Energy Weapons program to fruition. And there are thousands of patents for direct energy weapons product or program or machinery that actually does direct energy weapons. And when I first started looking this up about direct energy weapons, there was actually a lot of individual patents for directed energies, but this definitely has the symptom that this is not normal. You don't have a house. Like, I live in the Big Island. We had a fire in one of our buildings in a small town that I live near, and the building didn't turn to white ash. It was a second floor, and it was black soot. The glass was still there. It was a regular fire. You do not have a fire where houses turn to white ash. And I'd love to show the Tubbs picture and then the Paradise picture that I sent you guys, the Tubbs picture in 2017. This is exactly the same thing. It was an attack on the people. The houses are white ash, and this is Paradise. That's Tubbs. Look at the trees. You see the pine trees. Look at they're not burned. These should be black sticks. That's what should be left. And the houses should be black soot. There should be refrigerators left, but all the houses are white ash. That's impossible. Yet the forest is still there. That's why they call it a wildfire now, because it's not a forest fire. The forest doesn't burn. And then the next picture was Paradise. And this is a mobile home park that burned. Where did the fire come in from? Like, where's the line that shows the fire burned all these trees and then burned these homes? There's no line. The pine trees are still completely up. My mom lives 20 minutes from Paradise, so I actually went to the Paradise Fire 2018 that Christmas and saw this for myself, and I was blown away. I was like, how do you have homes turn into white ash? It's like people forgot how a fire burns. And this is not normal. This is an attack on the people, on Americans.
You know, one thing that stood out to me is that just a few weeks before the fire in July, of 2023, Governor Josh Green declared a state of emergency over Hawaii's housing crisis, which gave him extraordinary powers over housing permits. And now we see how few have been actually issued. So he already had that. And it was supposed to be temporary, but we see the delay in permitting here makes us wonder what has been their intention with this land all along.
Great question.
That is absolutely correct. He suspended 22 laws prior to the fire, and he said there was a housing emergency. And there was, I remember that whole news report, because one of his advisors was like, "There's children, they're dying." Nobody was dying. The homeless. I mean, if you're going to be homeless, you should be in Hawaii because it's warm. You actually do really well if you're homeless. So. The thing with the first words out of the governor's mouth after the fire, the first report, he says, "I'm looking for ways for the state to acquire the land for workforce housing." So right after his constituents just lost everything, their ohana, their family died, he comes then on and says, "Now I'm going to take your land." And there was a big stink about that he actually needed to back up from that statement, because a lot of locals they really rose up for that. But here's the thing with this emergency proclamation that the governor, this was his first one. The first one, he has now signed over 90 emergency proclamations. Hawaii, the state of Hawaii, is in a state of emergency, and it's because the governor he has signed over 90 emergency proclamations based on administrative issues, zero legislation. He has suspended over 30 laws. This is in the whole state. He keeps just deciding he's going to have a project and, so I'm going to do this emergency because this is the project I now want to run. And these are the laws that are in my way. So this is what I'm going to suspend. He suspended a bidding law. There was a hotel in Hilo, and it needs to be definitely taken down. He suspended a bidding law and gave the contract to one contractor and didn't allow other people to bid on it. There's so much corruption here in the state, and this is why I also started StandTogetherHawaii.com, because we are taking action. We can take action, you guys. A lot of people have contacted me and said, "What can we do?" And I tell them, you have to look at what's coming down your pipeline through the bills and your general plan. Because what happened to Maui, Maui was set to be the first smart island. In 2015, that happened in 2015. LA, same thing, smart city. North Carolina, Asheville, smart city, all of it. And, but what's happening with these smart cities is also coming through people's general plans. You have to look at your general plan. We have been fighting our general plan here on Big Island for over a year, because the things they want to do are completely lined up with the UN Agenda 2030. To take away land. They wanted to change important ag land into natural land, which that leaves a lot of rules that people will have to jump through. Maybe their organic farming isn't natural, so it literally creates more rules and regulations for locals. So you got to be looking at your general plan. And thank God for Big Island right now. We have a county council member who's changed the whole entire plan. She's actually redesigned it because of we keep going to these meetings and keep telling them that it's not okay to do this. So what's happening in Maui, or what happened in Maui, is coming for all of us. And it's coming through our general plans, and you've got to be diligent on looking at what's in your general plan.
Well, can I just ask you, I want to follow up on that, and then we'll take some super chats. Because I think the general consensus, what people at the time were surmising, is that this land grab may be for the intention of creating an AI-driven smart city. Do we see evidence that is in fact what the government wants to do? Do you think that that's why all these... Can you expand on that?
Yes, it's through the bills. It's through the legislative bills. And that's why I'm telling people, you've got to look at your bills that are coming through in your area. And one of the easiest ways to do that is you can actually go use ChatGPT this way and go, what bills that are going through my legislature violate the Constitution. And when I was on Ann Vandersteel, she actually did this live, and she found a whole list of them. So you can use ChatGPT in that way to see what bills are coming through, what parts of your general plan are violating the Constitution, violating the amendments. They have been putting through some bills through Maui that do line up with smart cities and smart 15-minute cities. They actually had a whole corridor where this is so crazy. They took the entire west coast of Maui, not Lahaina's this little dot on Maui. But they decided they were going to take the entire west coast of Maui out of the Maui governing board and give it to a nine board that was appointed by the governor, and turn this whole west coast of Maui outside, have it be completely governed by a completely different governance. And we people like really stood up against that, so that didn't go through. But that's the thing we're talking about. And this is the third book I wrote, The Death of Freedom. This is what it talks about. And you talked about it too, Clayton, when you talked with Derek, and it was about technocracy. This is exactly what it is. It's basically moving governance, the government structure out of politicians and people voting into boards that are not elected officials. And this is exactly what's happening in Maui and other places.
Also, the electric company. So we talk about the technocracy, the technate, and having this total control. Their goal, of course, is total control. And even when you look at the electric company here, I mean, we know BlackRock ownership in the Hawaiian electric industries and Hawaiian Electric Company. So that's always convenient. You have BlackRock, which stands to benefit massively from this technate, from this technocracy. A part owner, of course, in the electric company that, well, there were all sorts of anomalies that day with the electric company.
And that's why they don't care if the electric company gets, is the victim here, is the cause, because the amount of money that they would have to spend, for that, for them being blamed for the fire is nothing compared to what they're going to be getting in the future, because they do own the electric companies here in Hawaii and other places.
Maybe you could talk I want to take a few super chats here. Let's see. Denise, the Celt says a map of the Maui fire showed the spontaneous fires erupted in an almost perfect circle. That doesn't happen in nature. Governor Josh Green is a Jew, by the way. Practice for the Argentinian fires, perhaps, Denise is asking. Of course, we saw the specific fires in Argentina. Anything you want to say about that with the circles, the pattern?
Yeah, absolutely. I saw that too. I asked a firefighter about it. He said he couldn't really technically say if that was normal or not, because it could be around like a track or something like that. But there's no track. There's no track in Maui. And yeah, that's just not normal. The way that the fire, they blamed the wind. They blamed the wind on Hurricane Dora. Hurricane Dora was 500 miles away. It would have hit my island before it hit Maui. There was a Mark Finan of Channel 3 News. He was the chief meteorologist. And he actually said on live television the day of the fire, he said that he did not think Hurricane Dora had anything to do with the fire. And then he retires 6 months later afterwards. And that was interesting. But a lot of things, the fire, you guys, went against the wind. It went against the wind. That's impossible. It jumped over a construction site. There was a construction site with exposed 2x4s and different material made of wood, completely intact, no singe marks, nothing. And then what it did was it jumped over and it melted the cars in the parking lot next to the construction site, all the trees still standing. So it was things like that. It was just anomalies like that back and forth. There was a church that had some type of, it was like and I want to say laser because I think that's what it was. It was a hole in the roof. It was just a one hole in the roof of this church. That was it. There was nothing else around it that was burned. Nothing else around it that was burned. So a lot of things like that. Huge anomalies with the blue things. I know that the blue things of this paper ticket that was found in the ash. And this is thanks to Eric West of Hawaii Real Estate. That's the one. That's Eric's hand. He literally pulled this right out of the ash, white ash falling off of this paper ticket when he pulled it out. And this is a blue ticket. Then we have the t-shirts he found. He found 6 t-shirts completely intact, no holes, no singe marks in the white ash. Then the blue umbrellas. This is right next to maybe one of these umbrellas would make it through, but all of them made it through. Then the stove, I want to show you guys. This is a friend of mine's stove, and she survived the fire. She's the one that went around the police officer. And look, the glass is melted out. That's glass melted out, and the racks are warped, and the beautiful, bright, royal blue color. How in the world does that just stay intact? And the reason is, and I think there's a video or a picture of the patent. There's a patent for a laser microwave transmission using a laser generated plasma beam waveguide that uses a titanium sapphire crystal for the laser. And what color is sapphire? It's blue. So the things this is the scientists that I have researched have found that anything blue doesn't absorb the frequency of the laser. It repels it. That's why blue things didn't burn. There's been people, painting their homes blue, and it's a lot.
Dr. Denise MD says, thank you, Michelle. I was on Maui with my son that day. There were multiple fires, no warnings. Number 1, weather manipulation. Please comment. And then we have been talking about that. Number 2, land grab. Number 3, children missing. And is it related to the Palisades fire? Anything there you want to unpack for Dr. Denise?
Yeah, absolutely. Mahalo so much for that. The weather, I actually have sent you guys the Weather Modification Act of 1976. This was an act that was put through Congress that was for exactly that, weather modification. There it is right there. So this is an act that was put through Congress October 13th, 1976, you guys. And then the first weather modification patent, I sent you guys that too, 1891. The first weather modification patent was in 1891. This is a patent to produce rain. This was for, in my belief, it was for Operation Popeye. But the biggest thing I want to share here, 1891, over 100 years ago, the very first weather modification patent. People don't realize that this has been happening for a very, very long time. Operation Popeye.
I should point out Operation Popeye, when they first rolled that out, it was a kind of a disaster. Did not go so well. But do you think that they gave up when they've realized they could actually create snow? I mean, no, they literally took it and ran with it then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. They did use that over Vietnam, and the soldiers actually called it Operation Mud because there was a lot of mud there. And then I'll show you the pictures. The first picture of the linear clouds. So the day before the fire, there were these linear clouds that went to the Hawaiian Islands. This is a satellite picture, thanks to Bruce Douglas of Maui Community Investigates. Went to the Hawaii Islands, but didn't go past them. Do you guys see any clouds passing the islands? None. There's linear clouds going to the islands, not passing them, just stopping right at the islands. A friend of mine who works for National Security happened to be flying over Maui this day, and she said she saw square cloud, blue sky, square cloud, blue sky for miles long. And there is a HARP dome. There is a HARP dome on Maui. There's also one, I'm sorry, not on Maui, on Oahu. And then there's one on Big Island that's north of us, that Maui sits right in between those two HARP domes. And HARP, high intensity frequency, the whole thing is escaping me right now, but it literally heats up the ionosphere, and then they turn it off. And then they heat it up the ionosphere and they turn it off. And this was actually can make these linear clouds to change the weather.
And I should just say, we've spoken to whistleblowers who've worked at the HARP arrays, not only in Alaska, but also in Antarctica, and have confirmed exactly that, and how devastating and nefarious these HARP arrays can be. And these are just some of the more famous ones, but they're all over the place. These aren't just yeah.
I want to ask.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead and respond to that, and then I want to.
Oh, I was just going to say there's a Harp Dome north, and there's also one south. We have the Big Island could fit all the islands in this one island. So they're both there. There's one on the north side of the Big Island, and there's one all the way south at South Point, the furthest south of the United States that you can get. So it's and you're right, they're everywhere.
Now, there are times when I'm like, man, this is all so crazy. It could have just been something. It could have, right? And then there are pieces of it, such as that governor proclamation and these blue items that I'm like, no, it can't be. One of the things that sticks out to me that just tells me there's got to be something there is the Maui police chief at the time, John Pelletier. Is that how you say his name?
Yep. That's correct.
The fact that he was the police chief in 2017
Vegas
during the Las Vegas shooting. And that story is full of holes, makes no sense to anyone who studies it. And then he moseys on over to this event. And again, we have a story that's full of holes. So what questions can we draw from that?
So you guys, they had to change a law in order to get him to be able to be the police chief. There was a law where you had to be a resident of Maui for a year, and they changed that 6 months prior to hiring him. So you had to be a Maui resident for 30 days, and then you could be the police chief. So many holes with this man. He was actually taken to the police commissioner because for harassment. There were 8 different people that had submitted complaints against him to the Maui Police Commissioner, and all of them got dismissed. All of them got dismissed, saying that there wasn't enough evidence, even though there was like video and audio of this man being literally saying he would fillet anybody who didn't do what he said, basically, but his words were fillet. That was actually out of his mouth. Then, you guys, this is something that not a lot of people know. There was mishandling of human remains after the Maui fire. After the Maui fire, they allowed recruits to pick up human remains, and they were putting human remains into the same bag. So you're supposed to have a GPS where you found a human remain, and it goes into one bag, and it's supposed to be tracked. And the GPS, it wasn't even tracked till 2 or 3 times after it moved. And some people aren't sure if they have the right relative. And I really hate to say this, it breaks my heart. They're not sure if they have the complete relative. This man who worked for the Maui Police Department for over 12 years, who was the main guy who would go in to pick up human remains, he was not asked to do this job he's done from the Maui Police Department for 12 years. And instead, they had the recruits. He actually complained to the police commissioner against the Maui police chief for doing this. He actually had sent the Maui Police Department the entire protocol for picking up human remains and how you're supposed to do it. And he said he was so kind, like there was a whole news report on this, and he said, oh, he just thinks it was misunderstood. And I'm like, it wasn't misunderstood. So he takes the police chief to the police commissioner. One of the police commissioner attacks him, verbally attacks this man, and says, you have a complaint. You don't like the police chief, and that's why you're doing this. Why are you doing this? You are not respecting our healing from this tragedy. He's literally attacked by one of the police commissioners for taking the police chief and complaining about the fact of mishandling of human remains after the Maui fire. And this is another reason why the death toll is absolutely ridiculous. There's just no way 102 people died from that fire.
I want to talk. So many people have been asking about the children. This is a story at the very beginning that I think maybe was not correct, or at least the number of children missing. They were found later. So maybe you can unpack this piece of the story for us. And I know we have some images that you've sent as well on the children piece of this.
Yeah. So you can bring that up. This is the enrollment from the Lahaina Luna School Complex. Before the fire, there was 3,001 children that were enrolled in the Lahaina Luna school complex. And then after the fire, 538 re-enrolled into that school. And then 438 did private school or another school. 2,025 children did not re-enroll. So we have asked the Hawaii Education Department about this. Paul Preston, who is actually, he's the mayor for the New California State. He is actually used to be a school superintendent, and he contacted the Hawaii Education Department 3 weeks after the fire and asked if any school had requested the academic records for those 2,025 children 3 weeks after the fire, which means if they went to another school, the school would have to get these records. And the Hawaii Education Department said no, that no school had requested any records for any of the 2,025 children. So I have heard of the buses. I didn't want to put anything in my book that I absolutely 100% couldn't verify. So here's the thing. We have talked to a lot of locals, and they're saying no, that no children were all the children have been found. So it's one of two things. Either entire families died together, which we do know happened. Ellie Cochran, the state representative, said that a family of 10 people died just blocks from her house. The entire 10 person family, all of them passed away in this fire. So either all family members died because, again, why aren't parents or grandparents or aunties and uncles, screaming out about this, or there was not that many children enrolled to begin with. So possibly fraud on the Hawaii Education Department. Possible.
Interesting.
Yeah, possibly that. Because I had the same question too. Where's the 2,025 children?
Yeah.
Why is it that you have it? I mean, what is that? 2,025 children, all their families just decide to leave the island?
Right.
But still, any school they go to would have to contact the Hawaii Education Department and grab the school records for that child.
Interesting.
So,
wow.
That's a possibility.
I want to talk about the land grab piece of this, the families that were killed, the numbers that we have. Maybe we could do that in a second here. And any sort of questions we have coming in here. Maria Torres talks about L.A. I've literally seen the lasers come into Los Angeles and Redding, California fires with my own eyes. You talk about the laser piece of this story. A lot of people, described weird anomalies in the water, like purple lasers and things like that.
Yeah, the water was on fire in Maui. We had 90 boats burn on the harbor, in the harbor. 13 boats survive. I think that was an interesting number. But yeah, and these boats, and people are like, oh, the embers, they burned the boat. And I'm just going, that's a regular fire is not going to burn a boat on water, but we actually had the water was on fire in certain areas of the harbor. And then again, that goes back to the water and the trees. The water was on fire. And that's why, it's not a regular fire, and it possibly is I know that Bruce from Maui Community Investigates thinks it's a different type of frequency of direct energy weapons. I personally do think it was a laser. A friend of mine who lives on Maui said that she knows somebody who knows that there were drones that were being fueled up on Haleakala, which is the mountain there. And so you have to understand, these lasers don't have to come from space. They can come from a boat. They can come from drones. There's actually, in my book, there's actually a drone called Morpheus, and this is a microwave frequency laser drone that can fly around and has this technology. So it can come from a lot of different places. We do not understand the technology that they have right now. And this is also why, when the governor, Governor Green, goes to the United Nations. This is what fired me up. He went to the United Nations. Why does a governor go to the United Nations? He's not a leader of a country. And the first words out of his mouth was, oh, this is because of climate change. So we can actually talk about that, because I said that it's not climate change, you guys. They're saying that world is heating up, and it's actually the exact opposite. that's happening. So I can share more about that, but I didn't want to move too far off the question.
Okay. Yeah, let's get to that in a second and the land grab bit. But first, we're going to take a quick break.
I want to tell you about our friends over at Rumble Wallet, because have you heard about, we just now got confirmation that President Trump was debanked by JP Morgan. Did you hear that story this morning? They admitted to it, finally. And so many voices out there have been debanked. Friend of the show, Scott Ritter, and others. We have Wyatt Reed from the Gray Zone, debanked. Great journalists, debanked, because the banks just didn't like their politics, I guess, or their coverage. Well, that's why Rumble Wallet is so important, because Rumble launched this Rumble Wallet so no one can cancel you. It's a wallet that supporters can use to instantly tip creators like ourselves without any middlemen taking cuts. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money. Not a bank, not a government, not a tech company, not even Rumble can touch it. It's yours, only yours. Yours to protect your family and your future. You can buy and save digital assets like Bitcoin and Tether Gold all in one place. Tether Gold is real gold on the blockchain with ownership of physical gold bars. It's not only a wallet to buy and save, but it also allows you to support your favorite creators by easily tipping them with a click of a button. There will be no fees when you tip our channel and others, and we actually receive the tip instantly. It's amazing. Unlike other platforms, you have to wait for payouts, and maybe they debank you, like PayPal. So support our show today and other creators by clicking that little tip button on the Rumble channel. It's wallet.rumble.com. Download Rumble Wallet today, open an account, and step away from the big banks for good. Wallet.rumble.com. Search Rumble Wallet in your app stores. You guys have heard about the bearskin hoodie, right? Well, smart people are grabbing theirs right now, because when it's freezing, I know that another big snowstorm is hitting the East Coast right now. You want gear that actually keeps you warm. Bearskin is running a 60% off deal right now, so you can finally upgrade that sad excuse for a winter hoodie that you've been suffering in. These hoodies are built for serious cold weather. 340 GSM of bearskin fleece, 10 legit pockets, muscular fit, even zips into the heavy storm rain jacket to turn it into a full waterproof armor. Whether you're hiking, hunting, traveling, or just hate being cold, this is the last hoodie that you'll ever need. You'll get free U.S. shipping, fast delivery, and you're finally kitted out properly for winter. It's a win-win. So do yourself a favor. Text the word redacted to 741-776 to lock in your 60% off. So see that number on your screen? 741-776. Just text the word redacted, and you'll get a link sent straight to your phone so you can check it out later if you're busy right now. And when you shop Bearskin, you're not just getting killer gear, you're also supporting the Fallen Outdoors and the Hope for the Warriors Veterans Program. So don't wait till you're freezing to realize your hoodie sucks. Get a bearskin now while it's 60% off. Text the word redacted to 741-776. Lawrence here, Michelle says, aluminum nanoparticles found in the trees. Of course, with weather manipulation, we've spoken to Dane Wigington quite extensively about the aluminum nanoparticles. And Philip, we talked about this, right? What type of, is it aluminum specifically, or in some of the cloud seeding programs?
Aluminum. Well, yeah, I mean, the aluminum, the main point about the aluminum was that at a fairly low or like high pH, it doesn't have to be very acidic in the soil for it to be taken up into the environment, into trees, into plants and things like that, and it is toxic. So that was the problem with the aluminum.
Yeah, they also found toluene in the water, in the drinking water. And they were telling people on the news in Lahaina, they were telling people, oh, toluene is from markers and from glue, but actually number one use of toluene is in dynamite. That's how you create TNT. Oh. And it was found in the drinking water.
Toluene.
Yeah. So they had to truck in water for the locals.
Jeez.
And that's in children's markers?
That's what they said. That's what the news was saying. They were saying anything except for TNT. They weren't saying TNT.
Of course.
But toluene is used for TNT mostly, so.
They're like, oh, it's in Sharpies. That's what, nothing to see here, nothing to worry about. Remnant was asking earlier in our chat room, he said, can Michelle talk about like the palm trees retaining more water than other trees? When you spoke to those arborists about it, the idea that, well, they're just, filled with water, therefore they wouldn't have caught on fire.
No, actually, it's exactly the opposite. They were the ones that were catching on fire. And it was like we showed you the pictures of the trees burning from the inside out. Those are the trees that had the water in them. They weren't supposed to be the ones that were on fire, but they were. That's the point. It's these trees that should not be burning that we're burning. And in fact, in my book, and that one right in the middle, I don't even understand this. It's just absolutely unbelievable. And the reason the organic material, if you guys want to, we can go into some of the pictures of the bodies that didn't burn correctly. And I just want to warn people, there is one that's very disturbing. It's heart-wrenching when you think these are people. This could have been me. This could have been you. This could have been your auntie or uncle. Or this is just, this was an attack on the people. Absolutely. And I really feel that the bravest of the brave are here, came to earth at this time, because I don't think this world is what we think it is. But if you want to go in, we can talk about the toad. My friend,
let's look at some of these animals here.
My friend, he went to Lahaina to volunteer, and he found this toad, brought it back to the Big Island. I actually held it, and this toad, this is impossible. A toad would be gone. It would be ash. But yet I held this toad, and all of the innards, all the organs are gone. Except you can touch it. This is like impossible. That not a regular fire. The cat is the most crazy. There was a first responder, totally does not want to be named, completely anonymous, that took a picture of this cat. First responders had to sign a non-disclosure. Why? What in the world why would they have to sign a non-disclosure? But you see all the liquid. I believe that was the innards. This cat is still standing up. It's charred. It's dead. This is a dead cat, you guys, balancing. And all these pictures are in my book because they're absolutely not found anymore, especially this one. And then you have the, what do you have next? I think it's the person with the braids. If you want to show that one. There was a person this is the most disturbing one. Absolutely. This person ran out. This was a man, ran out of his home, and look at half his body is charred. That brown, that black stuff is charred, and his hand is frozen. His hand is frozen. That's not how bodies burn. Bodies burn. The only thing left in a body that burns is ash or bone or teeth. That's it. It doesn't show a hand floating off of the ground. It doesn't show I don't even words. If you want to do the next one with the braids, because they're showing.
Put it in preview, Philip, so I can see if we have that one. I don't have
that one. Sorry,
we don't have that one.
Okay,
that one. Yeah, sorry.
It showed the design of the hair. The design of the hair, and that's impossible. Again,
doesn't hair burn?
And the dog, or you want to show the Texas one, the one in the Panhandle, which is the bull. When I was researching this, there was a whole field of cows that look like this. How do you have an ear? This whole thing is charred. This is the ear would be gone. The nose would be gone. The fur, you can see the outline of the fur on its face. That would be gone. The skin would be again gone. It would have ash and bone, and that's it. But this was some type of direct energy weapons attack. And here's the thing, direct energy weapons system, the frequency, the chemistry doesn't recognize the organic material. It doesn't recognize. This is why the trees, the bark doesn't burn. It's organic. The people don't burn the same way because they're organic. Now, this didn't happen with everybody, but the people outside, it seemed to happen with the people outside. The people inside, there was a boy that was holding his dog. So sad. He was found on his bed. His body was completely recognizable. And his mother said she believed God left him that way so she would recognize him. That's not how bodies burn. It doesn't leave you recognizing the person. It doesn't make sense. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was going to ask you if we could talk about like the families and, the official numbers of those that were told that were killed, displaced, and really the land grab piece of this story, which we haven't really touched on yet, which is all tied to these people who have not been able to come back to their house because they've been killed.
Yeah, that's right. And being killed at the The places where the fire victims went were these FEMA camps, these houses that look like, you actually have two of them. There's one that looks like bird houses, and then there's one that looks like a fishbowl. And these homes that the fire victims are in, some of them are people are dying. There was a 16-year-old boy that was found in his bed, dead. And there was another person that was found in their home. I hate to say this, they were decomposing, and the only reason they found it was because somebody was walking by with their dog, and their dog was trying to pull them to the house, and then the person saw, this is just so disgusting, they saw flies, and then they reported it, and they went in and found the body. And this was in the fire survivors camp. Then there was another man that died of a heart attack. The body that was discovered decomposing and the man that died of a heart attack, no media coverage. There was no media coverage for those two. Plus, there was a fire that started on the lanai of one of the homes, and the fire report literally didn't say the cause. It's in the Hawaii Representative Ellie Cochran asked the fire chief, told the fire chief, you cannot not give a cause for a fire that just happened in the fire victims' camp. They need to know what caused that fire. So there's a lot of things that are happening. Yeah. And in my opinion, that is part of the land grab, because if these people are gone, the state gets the land. And
Right. I mean, that's a big piece of this. I mean, and I was going to ask you sort of a definitive question is, who is buying this land? We mentioned mainlanders. Do you have any, with the minute or so that we've got left here, Michelle, what do you think? Like, who's been trying to buy this land up?
It's actually it's just staying. They're waiting. They are waiting it out. These people have a 100-year game plan, you guys. They're looking for the long haul. The state is not grabbing it right now. They're just waiting it out. That was a year after the fire, and they're waiting it out for people to leave. No businesses have been allowed to rebuild. I mean, it's a waiting game, and they're in it for the long haul.
Michelle, unbelievable work on this. If people want to read the book, I highly encourage everyone to grab it. It's called The Great Maui Land Grab. I could have spent another hour with you. Please keep us in the loop as this story progresses. Obviously, as we emerge, we're getting close to the 3-year anniversary on everything. So just thank you for your incredible work on this, and just kind of final thoughts from you.
I just want to say thank you for keeping the story alive, and everybody who's asking questions, keep asking questions. And again, look at what's happening in your own general area. That is where your power is. My book is at greatmauilandgrabbook.com, greatmauilandgrabbook.com, or on Amazon. And mahalo for your support.
Yes. You make the case that if we let this happen there, it could happen everywhere. So that's yet another reason to pay attention. So thank you so much. It was great to see you.
Thank you, Michelle.
Mahalo.
All right. Wow. Lots of great questions and comments here. What do you think?
I think it's full of questions. I don't feel like my questions are answered. I just have more.
Yeah, now I have more.
I was just thinking about thinking about the corpses when they were showing that, and I was like, what does do that is mummification, desiccation, like the removal of water will leave a preserved corpse like that, and that's what microwaves target.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what did you think about her discussion about the type of fire based on the arborist, and like what you're seeing with these?
Yeah, I found that to be really interesting. I'm not a botanist or an arborist, so I don't know like the moisture content of the trees, but it is interesting. I do know that palm trees keep all of the moisture up at the top, like where, up at the top, up at the fronds, and it's just interesting that they didn't burn, but the more water heavy trees did.
Yeah.
Lawrence Allen says aluminum is also an oxidizer. Yeah, that's right. Another one, super chat here. Yeah. So thank you for your super chats. Thank you guys. And thanks to Michelle for incredible work. We really appreciate you joining us here. Thank you guys. We should tell you, everyone, that we have a daily newsletter. If you go to redacted.inc, and you can sign up for free, and it'll be delivered to your inbox first thing in the morning. Natalie writes it every night. How do you put it together?
So it is meant as sort of a study guide or what we're going to talk about in the show. And I try really hard to make sure that the things that you're hyperlinked to for proof or original source material. So it's a little bit of fun news stories, some kind of catchy fun things, on the peripheral, but also the things that we're following here on Redacted. So if you go to redacted.inc, it hits your inbox every day that this show is live, Monday through Thursday. It's totally free. There's nothing behind a paywall. There's nothing upselled or cross-selled or anything, sailed, anything like that. So redacted.inc and put in your newsletter. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today, you guys. We will see you here tomorrow. Again, we're live every Monday through Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern. So we will be tomorrow. See you then.
I've got one that can see.